Hey guys, it's Abdullah. So when I first saw the Nokia 5.4 get announced, I was a bit unenthusiastic to be honest, because I felt like there aren't that many differences compared to the 5.3. But the more I use this device, the more I found out that it's grown on me. I also grew to appreciate some of the things this phone does that a lot of its competitors might not do as well. So this isn't the full review of the Nokia 5.4, this is my long-term review of the device. So let's get straight into it. So let me start by talking about the hardware. I've already discussed how much I really like this dusk finish and dusk color on the 5.4, even if it gathers fingerprints like almost nothing else. I think a matte finish would have been a much more practical choice for this device, and I'm hoping that they'd actually move in that direction in the future. So yeah, it's a decision that favors, I would say, look and design over practicality, and it might not be for everybody. I also have to address some of the complaints about the build quality of the Nokia 5.4. Yes, it does flex a little bit when you press on the back plate in certain areas, and no, it doesn't affect your overall day-to-day usability, and you most likely won't even notice it on a day-to-day basis. So, there's no way you can bend this phone no matter how hard you try, because the construction on the inside is very solid. And it also handles heat management pretty well. So, minus when you're trying to game heavily, you won't notice the temperature go up at all. Just FYI, I've used this phone with the provided case, and I would highly recommend actually getting a screen protector to protect the screen, because unfortunately it will gather these annoying micro scratches. Overall though, the hardware doesn't feel as special as some of Nokia's from yesteryear, and I'm not even talking about old Nokia, I'm talking about 2-3 year ago Nokia. Now let's talk about performance. This is actually where things go a long way in the Nokia 5.4's favor. As you should know, this phone comes with the Snapdragon 662 processor and Adreno 610 GPU, and it's running on Android 10 as a part of the Android One program. If that sounds confusing to you, all you need to know is that the phone does not come with any built-in bloatware, and it completely relies on Google services for all the basic applications such as a photo gallery, a dialer app, and so on. It also looks and feels like stock Android, so it's very similar in look and feel to what you find on the Google Pixel. Now, in theory, all of this combination should mean that the lightweight OS should run pretty smoothly most of the time, and luckily this is actually the case. I would say this phone's biggest advantage over a lot of its competitors is how well the software is optimized to run on this hardware. Since the last update, I've faced no bugs and a very good experience overall. I think if I had to describe the performance of this phone in one word, I would say it's reliable and consistent. That's 2 words. You get what I mean. It's not as quick as a flagship device when it comes to opening and switching between applications, but it's close enough, and for its price, it's really impressive. Speaking of impressive, even though this phone has a fairly average sized 4000 mAh battery capacity, the battery life has been quite excellent. I've consistently managed to get between 6 and 8 hours of screen on time on this phone, and it doesn't matter how hard I try, it's almost impossible to kill it in a single day. This means that for the average user, you'll get at least 1.5 days, and you might even be able to stretch it up to 2 if you're a light user. This of course doesn't involve gaming, which would reduce your overall usage to, I would say, just about 1 day. Sadly though, charging speed is subpar. So the phone's brick that comes in the box is limited to about 10 watts of charging, which takes about 2 hours and 15 minutes, I would say, to fully charge. If you're a fan of gaming, this phone can handle playing Call of Duty on very high settings with high frame rate really well. But a game like Call of Duty is very well optimized, and if you're into more hardcore stuff, for example, like Genshin Impact, you will definitely notice that this doesn't have the highest performance. My biggest disappointment though with the software is that this is an Android One phone and should technically get Android 11, and it still hasn't. So what's going on there? I have no idea, but I do imagine that it should get Android 11 soon. So let's get something out of the way. Even though this phone has 4 cameras on its back, 2 of these cameras, aka that 2 megapixel macro camera and the 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, are just purely for social media content creation and nothing more than that. The good thing is though, the 48 megapixel main camera is a quite capable shooter. It generally produces very satisfying looking images with good enough details, just the right amount of contrast, and I would say it's quite reliable. I wish the oversaturation was tuned a little bit less on this, but other than that, it works quite well. If you want to get the best out of this, you can still download gcam and you'll definitely notice a big improvement, especially when it comes to low light situations. The stock camera does okay in night mode as long as there's enough light around, but if it's very dark, then Google camera is really the only way to go to get a very usable image. The 8 megapixel selfie camera is just okay, and there's not much really to add to that. As for video recording, I would say it's quite good. They fixed the autofocus issue that I complained about in my initial review with an update. So now the 1080p 30 frames per second video is smooth and has very nice autofocus. Details captured are just okay, but the audio quality is really good thanks to Nokia using Ozo audio. Sadly though, the phone doesn't support 4K video recording, and the autofocus issue still persists when you're shooting in 1080p at 60 frames per second. I like the addition of cinema mode on this phone because it's usually a feature reserved for more expensive devices, and it definitely gives this phone a unique selling point. It enables you to play around with manual controls for video recording, so that's a nice thing to have. Alright, so let's conclude over here. Nokia Mobile at the moment can't compete with the Chinese rivals when it comes to specs for money. But what this phone does is it shows us a different side that they can focus on that I really appreciate. And this is how much of a big difference it makes for a device to actually have really good optimization for the hardware and software. This makes a really big difference when it comes to the overall user experience. For that, it's quite easy to recommend the Nokia 5.4 for people who want an all-round competent smartphone that doesn't break the bank. And it doesn't hurt that the phone actually looks quite nice as well. Anyways, that's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.